Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live episode here from the Life of a Utah Medium. I am your host, Caden.
And your co-host, Tanisha, which I will be actually talking tonight because I'm excited about this podcast, or this live podcast.
She doesn't have a voice, so if she starts cracking on you, we're going to pull a plug on her and let her rest her voice. So, welcome to another live episode, guys. It has been a crazy busy week, and we've got quite a bit to update. We did do a live broadcast on the Life of a Utah Medium as well as my personal page today. So if you saw that, then you have all of the information on the events. If you did not see that, then you can get those updates right here live on Spreaker. I'm going to go ahead and send the link right now to the live page as well as my personal page. If you are not on either one of those and you are tuning in for the first time, a big welcome to us from here at Life of Utah Medium. We haven't talked about it in a while, so I want to give everybody a little bit of an update on who I am and what we do, and then we'll jump into the updates, the events, and all that, and then we will talk about tonight's topic of the evening. So for those of you who are maybe listening in for the first time, I am Caden Mattinson. I am and always have been known as the Utah County Medium. We have since changed that to the Life of a Utah Medium. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a background on, mediums in Utah. It's only been within the last decade or so that people have really talked about it. They've really accepted the paranormal field as a whole. And so this whole show is dedicated to kind of discussing the real life of a Utah medium. And I have my own life. Everybody is individuals has their own lives. And so, having said that, everybody is a little bit different. Everybody experiences things differently. But we all have our interactions with spirit. We all have our interactions with the things that go bump in the night, if you will. And so this there's a podcast and then this live broadcast. Both of them are dedicated to kind of informing people on living life as a medium and the topics that we discuss, things in the field, and things that we kind of enjoy dealing with and facing. So having said that, I am doing a class right now that is a psychic development class. For those of you that have reached out recently or interested in the class, I will be getting back to everybody tomorrow. Today was a little bit of a crazy day, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But so I am doing the class. We do have a few people participating right now, and it's actually gone really well. And so if you're interested in that, I would be happy to sit down, figure out your personal level of need and interest, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's jump into events because we do have a couple coming up. We have the gallery reading session with myself and Esther Graves at Synchronicities. That is coming up this Friday. So that will be this Friday, 2 days from now. That will be from 7 to 9 p.m. at Synchronicities in Sandy. If you don't know where that is, get with somebody or give me a call, and I will be happy to tell you how to get there. Tickets for that are $40 a piece. You can purchase those either from myself or from Esther, or you can purchase them the day of the event at Synchronicities. We will have that figured out so that anybody that shows up can pay for those tickets, and they will just send you downstairs as you come in. For anybody that is not able to attend this one but wants to attend a gallery, there is another one coming up next weekend, the 25th. That will be just myself doing a gallery reading session out at Benson Grist Mill, out in Stansbury Park, Utah. And if you want to participate in that one, there are 3 different levels of tickets that you can purchase. You can do just the gallery reading session. We will do that down in the amphitheater. And if you've never been there, come out and enjoy the environment. I mean, at the very least, come investigate. You can investigate solely investigation, and that is $25 a ticket. Or you can do a package deal and do both the gallery and the investigation. That is a $40 ticket. Guys, that is a steal. My normal gallery reading price is $35 a piece. So you're saving already $15 off that total. And then Advanced Paranormal on their events at Benson Grist usually charge $35 per ticket. And that is just to come out for the investigation. So you're saving $25 off the total price. And then we actually knocked another $5 off for you if you purchased the both investigation and the gallery. So you were getting that at a steal of $40 a piece to do both. Come out and participate. It's going to be a blast, guys. This will be the last Benson Gristmill event for the season. And then they will open back up, I believe in March or April. And so we'll be setting up some events for when they finally open back up for 2020. So if you want to participate in a gallery reading session and you say, well, how about what if I can't make either one of those events? Do not worry. We will be doing gallery reading sessions between myself and Esther once a month at Synchronicities. So if you miss out on this one and you can't make it to Saturday or next Friday's event, you still have a chance to come out. We will be doing them once a month at Synchronicities. I will post those dates and be announcing them as we set them. If you are interested in doing a private group, so you don't want to come out and do a public group, but you have a group of 4 or 5 or 10 people that want to do a group reading in your home, I am happy to arrange that as well. Get a hold of me for prices, get a hold of me for information. We can set it up to do it at your home. We can set it up to do it at Synchronicities. Either way, get a hold of me. We'll set you up. We'll get you taken care of and contact those loved ones that you may be looking for information on. We are looking at setting up other events as well. I'm trying to set one up for November. I'm going to make some phone calls this weekend and see what I can set up. If I can make that happen, I will give everybody the information as soon as I have it. So please be paying attention to the Life of a Utah Medium Facebook page for all those event details. Guys, it has been an insane week. If you have not listened to the podcast, I will give you a quick synopsis of our week. We have had a fun one. I was in the doctor's office and having heart problems, and so I went into the hospital and got a Holter monitor on and wore it until today. We had our 2-year-old in the hospital and had him have an EEG test to test his brain for seizures. And that came back clean, thank God. We don't know any information on my heart study yet. We probably won't know that for a few days. But his test came back clean, so that was good news. We had my 5-year-old fall off the top bunk of her bed just last night and end up in the Instacare with 8 staples in the back of her head. So that's a little bit crazy. We have the youngest of the 2-year-olds has the nasty cold thing that is going around right now. So she just got sick today. We had, we talked a couple weeks ago, we've had the gallbladder surgery. We've had an appendix removal. It has been insane. It has been absolutely nuts. I cannot wait for all of this to settle down. It will be nice. So, we do have more information coming once I hear about the heart study. Of course, I will let everybody know. I should have information by next week's live. So, if you're listening and wanting to follow along, stick with us and listen for that information next week. And it's been absolutely crazy. So if you're listening and you're following along on this crazy journey, I hope you're getting entertainment out of it at the very least. We're somehow still laughing. We're still riding along and waiting for the next bump because eventually it's going to happen, I guess.
Almost happened.
So as we're recording this live, it almost happened again. The 2-year-old here at the house fell off the bed and bounced his temple off the nightstand. So crazy life, guys. It is never a dull moment in this house. It is funny. Yeah, it's been an adventure. So I think we've got everything updated as far as life goes, as far as the events go. Still doing readings, and just kind of as a personal announcement and or question, however you want to phase this. I am in the process of setting up a roadside assistance company. Have been now for a couple weeks. We've talked about it a little bit. And so I'm in the process of figuring all of that out. If you have any referrals for companies that are hiring contracted companies to run their roadside, if you are aware of any insurance companies that are good to work with, that are, reasonably priced, if you are aware of any kind of loan companies that will work with a new company on a tow truck, let me know. We've had an idea for a little while. We're trying to implement it, and it's going to happen. We're slowly getting there. We're going to get the business name licensed as of probably Friday. So once that happens, of course, I will let everybody know, and I'll be advertising that as well. But yeah, if you have any information, if you got any referrals or anything like that, hit me up. I would really appreciate all the help we can get in getting that off the ground. It's going to be a little bit chaotic, but anything to take care of family. It's an industry that I love, and if it helps us get money coming back in and get us in the right direction, then we'll do it. So, guys, we are excited about tonight's live paranormal subject. It is one that a lot of people know very minimal about. It is one that not a lot of people talk about because we don't know a good portion of the actual story. We know bits and pieces of what they've put together. So I'm just putting up a post right now. If you're not listening to this right now and you're not chatting with us, sign on, log into your Spreaker account, chat with us. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're listening. If you are not on Spreaker and you're listening to us on iTunes, jump on your Facebook really quick and send me a message. Let me know that you're here. We want this topic to be heard loud and proud because this is we're in the Halloween season, and this is a good one. We are talking tonight, folks, about Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th and what made Friday the 13th come about. Because a lot of people think about Friday the 13th as being like a superstition and being like, everything that can possibly go wrong will go wrong on Friday the 13th. And especially on like a Friday the 13th with a full moon. And it was kind of interesting. We were sitting here talking about it one night, debating on topics for the next few shows. And we kind of looked at each other, and Tanisha looks at me funny, and she was like, we need to talk about Jason. Because she is a horror fanatic.
Okay, so normally, your kids would grow up on Disney Channel. I did not grow up on Disney. I grew up on horror movies. So I am definitely a horror person. I will talk about it all day with you if you want to. I will watch movies with you if you want. I love horror movies.
So, not a lot of people know that, they tried to base the movie series Friday the 13th on Jason Voorhees and his life story. However, we're finding out that they really nixed it. They really, really, really did not go anything off the real story. For example, they talk about, he did all of his killing on Friday the 13th. The truth of it is, Jason was born Friday the 13th. And so, Friday the 13th has nothing to do with the fact that he killed on that day. It has everything to do with his date of birth. If any of you were born on a Friday the 13th, doesn't make you a creep, Doesn't make you a killer. Doesn't make you a stalker. Like, so that's kind of funny. It's they talk about the fact that he was a murderer and a mass murderer and all that in the shows, and when in reality, it wasn't really the case. He actually stayed at Camp Crystal Lake, which is where that part of the story comes from.
And ended up getting bullied and ended up getting drowned in the lake.
Yeah.
And that's how he died. But he got bullied because he had a deformity called the hydrocephalus, which is like an abnormal, like or abnormally large head. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know.
So if anybody has seen the Goonies, the character that says the famous phrase, "Hey, you guys," that character is based on having hydrocephaly. Abnormally large fluid on the head. He has fluid pockets all over his face and his neck, and that's kind of the way that Jason looked. Not nearly as badly as the guy in Goonies does, obviously, but it is pretty bad nevertheless. And it's funny that they say he went and killed everybody at Camp Crystal Lake when in fact he was the one that was dead there, drowned in the lake. And if I remember correctly, reading the information, he was a teenager. Like, can you imagine life being bullied as a teenager at a camp, out of your element, not knowing anybody, not being friends with anybody, having a rough life in school, and a rough life with family, and then going out being bullied at camp, and it being so bad that you drown at the lake. And then after all of that, they base a horror franchise off of your death and completely construe it. Like, that's pretty messed up. That would be like, the show now. Help me with the name of it. The show about the kids that commit suicide on Netflix.
Not
Psycho Killers. Anyway, so there's an entire series about kids in high school that go through a bunch of hell and either commit suicide, or in the one case, the one kid is tortured so bad he like bleeds out. And he gets tortured. He gets treated like he was because he came out as homosexual. And so, as part of the series, 13 Reasons. 13 Reasons.
Yeah, it's 13 Reasons Why.
Yep, 13 Reasons is the name of it. Can you imagine having your life turned into a movie and having it all wrong, have it all construed? Have your life as a hero, have your life as somebody who has been out helping everybody, not giving really a damn rat's ass what goes on in your life, and then have them do a film based on your life that says that you were a terrible person, you were a murderer, you were a whatever. Like, come on.
I actually didn't watch 13 Reasons. Well, I mean, I watched the first season, and I had to stop because
Excuse me.
There was a couple of reasons why. But first was because it triggered me, and the second, I read the book, and the movie pissed me off, or the show on Netflix pissed me off because it was nothing like the book.
Hello, Twilight. Hello, Harry Potter. All these books, Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings, they were at least tried to be close. But, you take a 600-page book and try to dumb it down into 2.5 hours, and good luck. But yeah, no, guys, Jason Voorhees, they show him as being this murderous killer, and They show him killing at Camp Crystal Lake, and they show him there. Everybody's trying to understand Friday the 13th superstition, and nobody thinks to look and do the research on the true story. So that's what we're doing. We're going to find the real stories. We're going to find the stories of Freddy Krueger. We're going to tell you the stories at some point, possibly, about the Headless Horseman. We're going to tell you, and already have told you, some of the real stories of Salem, Massachusetts. Because part of the paranormal field, as it always should be, is investigating, is learning for yourself the truth about a place or an environment or whatever, what have you. The field is all about research and finding the truth and debunking what isn't real. And so that includes everything as far as I'm concerned. That includes these stories about franchises, about movies. We're going to try and get some information for you because I have been asked since we talked about it the last time. One of the topics of a night is going to be the real story of The Conjuring. We're going to get Andrea Perron's real story and tell you the facts of that case. We're going to talk a little bit about all of these cases. I mean, there are so many cases out there. You think about Lorraine Warren and Ed Warren, how many cases they dealt with over their careers. And quite a few of them became real. Quite a few of them became movies. And as intense as they got, Hollywood got a hold of the story and skewed it and made it so where the actual story is not anywhere close to what the movie shows. And in most cases, the shows are way dumbed down from what the actual case is. So we're going to talk about that as we go. But anyway, back on the story here of Jason Voorhees. Guys, there are so many movies. There's so many movies out there trying to depict what happened with Jason. And none of them show the truth. None of them. They all show him as some psychopathic killer with a mask and trying to hide his face. Well, I would hide my face too if I was bullied and made fun of because of a condition that I had no control over. That's just part of life. It's just part of how it goes. It's, you see movies like Friday the 13th, the beginning of Jason. It doesn't talk about why he would have become that way. It doesn't talk about why somebody would overnight become this massive serial killer. First of all, he didn't. But second of all, if you were in that situation as a person, being made fun of, being tortured, having people talk about you all the time, wouldn't you also be a little bit uneasy? Wouldn't you be a little bit uncomfortable? I mean, I know I would. You have enough problem when you don't get along with one person, let alone a whole camp. It's funny too because the movie was originally wrote the character of Jason as Josh. But Josh is not a scary name.
And also, it's kind of funny too, because Jason Voorhees 13 letters. So, but I don't know, there's like a theory that they changed the name to Jason instead of Josh because Jason's more scarier, and because of the, what was it, the producers or like the creators or something, Josh and Ian. So they just mixed it together and just did Jason. But it's just kind of funny that they chose Jason because there's 13 letters in the Jason Voorhees, and he was born on Friday the 13th in, what was it, 1946 or something like that. But it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's so weird. See, and some of the information, like, if you want to go experience Camp Crystal Lake, you can actually do that. Camp Crystal Lake is a functioning camp still. It's in New Jersey, and they run day tours because everybody wants to know what Camp Crystal Lake is like. Everybody wants to experience this horribly haunted, terrible place. And in the first appearance, you do actually see Jason as the deformed child. And one of the interesting parts of creating that movie is that almost didn't happen. You almost didn't get shown that piece of information. But they decided that it was scary enough. They decided that it was kind of that final twist and punch that they needed for the show. And so they show you. And like, it's so crazy. Like, so Tom Savini, everybody, if anybody knows any of the horror movies, he was the makeup artist. He was the one who designed that final scene. And it was because of his suggestion and that little bit of kind of a scare, I guess, would be to show the real Jason and show what he looked like. And so they did. They did just that. There's so many interesting parts. Like, you can go and tour Camp Crystal Lake, and like, because of the environment and because of like the story and because of everything they created, Camp Crystal Lake isn't scary. But if you get yourself all worked up about it, of course it's going to be. It's going to be terrifying.
So apparently, if you've watched the movies and everything, Jason's mom is like the main killer, like secretly, 'cause she like, I don't know, she would like try and convince him to kill people.
Yeah.
And stuff, like, she would get into his head, and it's kind of like an abusive relationship.
Right.
Like, they just get in your head. They convince you to do stuff that's not true and not good, and that's what she did. So she's like the main killer behind everybody, or behind the Jason in the movie. And also, Jason is, he is the highest rank of killings in the horror genre. He has killed the most people in horror movies. That is a very interesting fact.
He is, he's a psycho. At least in the movies, anyway. He's interesting. The design of him was created by Victor Miller and Tom Savini. So those two are very well-known makeup artists. And an interesting part for this is he was originally not intended to be Jason Voorhees like that. He was not designed to be an antagonist in the film. But it became so perfect, and the way that they designed the whole thing became so iconic, they kept it, and they ran with it. They created a bunch of portrayals and bunch of like twists and turns and things that portray Jason, when in fact, like, obviously from what we've kind of learned, like, that was not the real Jason Voorhees. Like, he was a, super stand-up kid. He was a super, like, down-to-earth kid. And, in the movies, it's kind of funny, too, how they created the duo of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Like, that was not originally intended either. And, of course, now they've got the series and they've had to do a whole bunch of stuff. They've done the Jason versus Freddy. They've done all kinds of correlations because of how well that turned out. So we'll talk one night about Michael Myers and the real story behind Michael Myers as well. Because that would surprise you. Michael Myers and the way that he was created. So, one of the famed questions, of course, is, did he actually pass away? Did he actually die? And yes, he did. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to look through my notes here because I can give you an exact date. Let's see here. I'm just trying to look through my notes here so I can find. I know I wrote down somewhere in here the actual date. But yes, so he was born. Jason Voorhees was born Friday, March 13th, 1953. Again, disabled. He had, for those of you that are just listening in, he had hydrocephaly. So what that is too much fluid on your head and your brain, and it creates a deformity. The water has to go somewhere. The fluid that's in your head has to go somewhere. And a lot of times, just like, an air bubble in, say, a tarp or something like that, it bubbles up instead of down. So it won't go into the lungs, it stays up in his head. And he drowned. He was not like committing suicide on purpose. He got into the water, fell into the water, and nobody was paying attention. Nobody heard him screaming. Nobody cared. Everybody kind of left him alone. And it was interesting. So his mom, she's kind of the forefront of all of the movies. His mom was Pamela Voorhees. She was a cook at Camp Crystal Lake, and she was the real killer. She was the one who killed everybody. When she found out, when she heard that he drowned, she kind of lost her marbles, which every mother would, and killed all of the counselors as soon as it was reopened. And in a fight with one of the counselors, she was decapitated. So she did die there at the camp. Then, and one of the questions that I had was, okay, so we know about his mom, because she's all over the series. What about his dad? We don't ever talk about that. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows who he is, because DNA tests don't show who his father is. His father was a married guy who had an affair with her, and they had Jason, and he disappeared.
Actually, his name was Elias Voorhees. They actually think that he got all of his, supernatural abilities, like not being able to die and all that kind of stuff from him. Like, that's like the theory. But
in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie.
True facts is they really don't know anything about him.
Yep.
They don't know anything. Like I said, all that they know is really he had an affair on his wife. He was married. And that was about the only information that they had gotten out of Pamela about him. She wound up pregnant. He disappeared. And so she was left raising Jason by herself. And so they spent time at Camp Crystal Lake because that was where she worked. And it was, a little bit of a crazy life. It was a little bit of a crazy life for Jason. So, I mean, there's a lot of information about him. There really is. I mean, if you want some information about the actual stories, do some research. You would be surprised at the stuff that you find. And like I said, you need to look kind of at all of the details about anything, about Jason, about Freddy, about the hauntings, haunting in Connecticut, the Conjuring, all of those. You need to do your research because you might be surprised. You might find that what you think is not actually what is appearing.
So another thing to add to the whole, like this goes back to when Caden was talking about the Crystal Lake. There's actually a statue under the lake, or like inside of the lake that you can go and see. It's of Jason. So I know where I'm going on my next vacation.
Yeah, you can, if you are a scuba diver or anything, you want to go into the water, there's an actual statue, there's an actual replica of Jason from the movie, that is there at the bottom of the lake. So, if you want to know about that, go up to Camp Crystal Lake and go swimming. But yeah, it's crazy. So, of course in the movie, they show all the time that Jason wore that all famous ski mask. That is not something that actually happened. Jason Voorhees never really wore that in real life. As much as he wanted to hide his face, he hid in the trees. He hid in the mountains. He hid in his cabin. He just didn't go around people. He never had anything to cover his face up. And of course, the famous butcher knife. He never had an axe, a sword, a knife, anything like that. He was a stellar kid. So, yeah, he never carried any kind of weapons. He wasn't the one that did the killing. His mom did. And then this, in the same day, not in the same 16 shows, but in the same day, she was decapitated. So it's kind of interesting. And it's really interesting to see how they've drug it out and how they've twisted and turned and added to it. Brought together two characters that have absolutely nothing in common and put them into one series. Freddy versus Jason.
Fun fact, Jason Voorhees has been in 10 movies. There are, 6 or 7 Friday the 13th. There's a Jason X, and there's Freddy versus Jason. Personally, Freddy versus Jason is my favorite, probably because Freddy Krueger is my favorite. He is my absolute favorite villain of all time.
They're both psychopaths. It's fine. They're both psychopaths. Yeah, if you like horror movies, enjoy your show. But that's all it is. It's Hollywood based. It's a show. They took a story, twisted it, turned it into an evil little thing. So, yeah, now you know. Again, like I said, we don't know the full story of Jason. We don't know what created the hydrocephaly. We don't know if it was an injury, if it was kind of just a medical problem, because it does happen that way. We don't know anything about him. We know the little bit of information that we've given you so far. If you want more information, look him up. You'll be surprised at what you find. This has been fun, guys. I love doing shows like this. I love talking about topics that people enjoy hearing. Love talking about the stories that kind of make up the paranormal field. Love talking about this stuff. I love talking about answering questions that everybody has. Some of the topics that we've done, like the Waverly Hill Sanatorium episode on the podcast, that was a user request. That was a listener who messaged in and said, I would like to hear the real story or the information that you can find on this case. So, having said that, if you have questions, if you have anything that you would like to hear, if you have questions for me as a medium, send us some info, send us your questions. Send us what you would like to hear in a subject. I am more than happy to create an episode based on what you ask. Those are the funnest episodes to make. We learn something new. We get to share some information. We get to answer some questions that we might have had that you had asked. So, again, guys, thanks for listening in. Thanks for sharing the podcast, the listening in here live on Spreaker, sharing everything. It's been amazing. You guys have been incredible. We're growing in listeners, we're growing in support, and that's what this is all about. So we'll continue to do this as long as everybody listens. If you all quit listening, then we'll quit making shows. It's been great, guys. I love talking to y'all. We'll see you on the gallery reading session coming up this Friday if you are going to be a part of that. We'll see you on the one next Friday if you're going to be a part of that one as well. And otherwise, stay tuned next for this next podcast. We are going to do a podcast tomorrow. We are supposed to be having our episode from Monday on the air already, and everything's been a little insane, and we just haven't had the time to do it. So it is what it is. We will get it on the air tomorrow, like I said, and then Friday we will be talking to you again. We'll release the next podcast. And this Friday's podcast is going to be about synchronicities. And so I may record that podcast at Synchronicities. And we might have a special co-host on that episode. So we'll see you guys all there. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you all again next week right here live from Spreaker.